Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining our very second live podcast. As mentioned, in Jalin Realty, we try to bring all sorts of experts to the foreground to speak to you about various aspects of buying an Australian property. And today, actually, we are very happy to invite my head of leasing, that is based, Miss Carolyn Shepherd, who is based in Melbourne, to speak about an issue that she's very passionate about. Now, Carolyn Shepherd has close to 20 years of leasing experience in Melbourne, and she is a true blue Melbourneian at heart as well. Today she'll be here to talk a little bit about the rise of the West, basically. So, Carolyn, thank you for joining our podcast.
Thanks very much, Brian.
Yep. So, Carolyn, just as a lot of our viewers will be very concerned about is, how has the West grown over the last 10 years, the western suburbs? Because to a lot of Melbournians, right, they are very acquainted with the south of Melbourne CBD or to the east of Melbourne CBD. The West is a little bit unfamiliar to them. So perhaps you could share a little bit about the western suburbs journey over the last 10 years from your viewpoint as a leasing agent.
No worries.
Carolyn?
The western suburbs of Melbourne over the past 5 years has become very popular. However, previously, the western suburbs were seen as a very average, blue-collar type area. Because of its proximity to the CBD, it was always the untouched, but it was very accessible. Now, because of the direct freeways and the significant increase in infrastructure and transport, schools, shopping complexes and community services, not to mention the gateway to the beaches and the Bellarine Peninsula, the western suburb is a very, very sought after location. It allows the investor or the purchaser of property to have larger allotments of land, because land in the western suburbs predominantly was farming. So the developers and builders have been able to subdivide those large farming lands to be now beautiful, developed, comprehensive suburbs. The western suburbs presents with affordable and favourable house prices and returning great yield. Once upon a time in the western suburbs, there was very few rental properties. But now, because of the infrastructure and, as I said, the popularity has increased, it also presents an opportunity for those looking to rent in a particular area, larger family homes at affordable rents. The beautiful estates cater for everyone. And once upon a time, the western suburbs were seen as a boring area to live. Now, because of those developments, it's seen as quite sought after because of the facilities that they have in the western suburbs. I myself am from the western suburbs, and 10 years ago, I would consider moving. Now, I've recently moved back to the western suburbs, and everything is here. Everything that I need, everything that my family needs. So it's a very, very popular part of Melbourne.
Wonderful. Carolyn, then how would you what are your views on Wyndham Vale, basically? Because we obviously have a very popular project right now that's going on that we are currently selling to a lot of our clients, basically. So I thought it would be wonderful to get your view as a leasing expert, right? On potentially renting out an house in Wyndham Vale, basically. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Wyndham Vale is a great suburb. It's only 30 kilometres southwest of Melbourne CBD, and it's a direct line via freeway. So although you talk 30 kilometres seems a long way, because it's direct freeway from one end to another, it is quite quick. And it also has the transport and the community shopping to be able to live sustainably within that environment or within that suburb. It is a very popular suburb on the basis that it has quite a number of schools. The education, we've got a number of primary schools in the area, we've got a number of secondary schools in the area. So in terms of facilities for the growing family and for the professional, there's a lot more employment now in Wyndham Vale than there was previously. It contains many businesses. There's restaurants, there's cafes, there's grocery stores, there's hairdressers. There's also obviously a lot of community services, so kindergartens and family groups that you can become members of. So Wyndham Vale and the estates that they're developing there are almost the hub of the western suburbs. They are quite self-sufficient. So from a leasing point of view, notably you would have families or professionals. Wyndham Vale is not somewhere you would get a student market simply because of the location to the universities, but it's a growing popularity with families because they can rent at good prices larger homes for the first moving out family, but also for the more mature family who are looking potentially to downsize. There's also, as I said, a lot of opportunity in terms of employment now, whether it be building industry, education. So there's a lot more professionals who are moving to the western suburbs to lease. What I've noticed over the course of the last probably 3 to 4 years is the rents have been increasing, which is a great thing. Once upon a time, the western suburbs, including Wyndham Vale, would have received lower rents, but now you can see the popularity growing, so the rents are actually increasing. So from my point of view, from a leasing point of view, it is a very opportunistic time to invest in that area.
Wonderful. And one of the, I guess my last question for you is that currently a lot of, from all the stats, we can see that the vacancy rate is maybe about 1.7%, which is a really good statistics when you
Absolutely.
are renting out a house. It is no secret that more and more houses will be built in the area, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Will there be a situation whereby there are a lot of too many houses and then therefore the vacancy rate would go up in the years to come? What are your thoughts, basically?
Yeah, look, there's always peaks and troughs with vacancy rate depending on when the developments settle. But I think the key to keeping a vacancy rate at bay is picking the right agent and making sure that they're looking outside the square when it comes to advertising for a property. So yes, there will be a supply, but with all suburbs, when there's new developments, there are supply. So I think it's about advertising the properties correctly. I think it's about contacting the right industries. So you're making sure that you are going to every possible avenue to search for a tenant. These days, particularly in areas where there is a supply, you can't rely on the internet where you're competing against maybe 50 other properties. I think it's up to your agent to be diligent enough to work with every avenue, relocation agents, as I said, the local industry, getting them to understand the area to make sure that they're seeking the most possible appropriate tenant for your property. If the agent's doing that, then I don't think a vacancy rate is going to be an issue.
And just for everyone's benefit, JPM or Jalin Property Management, you guys are doing the leasing for houses that are built in Wyndham Vale, aren't you?
Absolutely. I'm really excited to work with the Wyndham Vale properties. As I said, it is a really sought after area, and to work with obviously the investors there, but also to the tenants. I think it's a very good opportunity to get good rental return, but also quality of tenant.
I think
at the moment.
Sorry, you go.
At the moment, we're looking at a rental yield of about 4.9% for a 3-bedroom home. Now, that's very good returns, and that's on average. That could actually increase between now and obviously completion of a home, but it could increase tenfold in the second tenancy when the competition isn't as great for leasing.
Sure. That sounds really positive, actually, Carolyn. Well, Carolyn, thank you so much for joining us. This concludes the end of our second podcast. As always, if you have any suggestions or any other experts that you would like us to speak to on your behalf for the next podcast, please send us your suggestions to marketing@jalinrealty.com, and we're most happy to arrange for another podcast. Once again, thank you for your attendance. Bye-bye.